Have you ever looked at your daughter and felt something was wrong, but couldn't explain what? She's present, but seems distant. She smiles, but her eyes tell a different story. You ask if everything's okay, and she says yes, but something inside you doesn't believe it. That unease in your spirit isn't paranoia, it's discernment. And today, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening, why you were alerted before anyone else, and what you need to do now before it's too late. Stay until the end, because what you'll hear in the next few minutes could change the course of your daughter's life forever. There's a war that doesn't appear on the news. It has no bombs, no visible armies, no clear face you can point to. But it is real, and the battlefield often is the hearts of our children. If you're watching this video now, it's not by accident. You didn't arrive here because you were bored or because the algorithm simply threw you here. You arrived here because something inside you was stirred. A restlessness, a gentle voice that won't stop whispering, "Pay attention, something is happening." And I need you to take this seriously. I'll speak to you as a father to a father, as a mother to a mother, as an intercessor to another. No fluff, with respect and with real urgency. Your daughter is being targeted, not by an obvious physical threat, though those exist too. I'm talking about something more subtle, more insidious, harder to identify precisely because it comes disguised as normality. It comes with a smile. It comes with an invitation. It comes with opportunity painted gold on the outside and empty on the inside. And until you have a name for this, until you understand the pattern, you'll continue feeling that tightness in your chest without knowing what to do with it. But that changes today. What you're observing isn't common anxiety. Let's start with the symptoms. Because every war leaves traces, and the traces are there. You just need to know where to look. Have you noticed your daughter has changed? Maybe not dramatically. Sometimes it's subtle. She was communicative, but has become more withdrawn. She had clear plans, but now seems lost, without direction, as if the thread connecting her to her purpose has been silently cut. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you. And strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment. She sleeps more than usual, or can't sleep. She's more irritable, more sensitive, reacts in ways that don't make sense for the moment. You try to talk and she deflects. You offer help and she says she doesn't need it. But her gaze tells a different story. Maybe you've noticed changes in her circle of friends. People who seemed interested in her well-being are suddenly always present, but something about that presence doesn't feel clean. A dependency has been built little by little, a narrative being installed. Nobody understands you like we do. Your family doesn't really support you. You're different. You don't belong in their world. That's called isolation, and it's the first stage of every control scheme. Or maybe the symptom is different for your daughter. Maybe she's throwing herself into projects or relationships with an intensity that doesn't make sense, as if trying to prove something or fleeing from something she can't name. A haste that isn't motivation, it's disguised desperation. Pay attention. These aren't generational problems. It's not just how kids are these days. It's not lack of responsibility or too much technology, though technology is used as a vector. These are signs of interference working in the shadows, and that uses exactly the ordinary as disguise. There's one more symptom few talk about, but many recognize when they hear it: the loss of genuine joy. It's not declared clinical depression. It's an opacity, a light that grew dimmer without anyone noticing exactly when it started. She laughs, but the laughter doesn't reach her eyes. She plans, but without that spark of anticipation you knew. She's physically present in moments that should be memorable, but seems like a part of her is somewhere else, as if her attention, her energy, her enthusiasm are being drained to somewhere you can't see. This is one of the most silent and serious signs, because joy doesn't vanish by accident. It is stolen, little by little, by influences that consume more than they contribute, by relationships that drain more than they restore, by environments that diminish more than they elevate. And when you notice this, when you stop in the middle of a Sunday afternoon and look at her and think, when was the last time I saw her truly happy, really? You can be sure that thought didn't come from nowhere. It was planted in your heart by one who knows you are the guardian of this life. The invisible web, how it's built. Now I need to explain how this web works, because when you understand the mechanism, you lose fear and gain authority to act. This web isn't built overnight. It is woven slowly, thread by thread, over weeks and months. Each thread seems harmless on its own. It's a new friendship that seems exciting. It's a work or study opportunity that seems incredible, but that gradually pulls her away from healthy relationships. It's an idea gradually installed, that her past was a mistake, that the values she grew up with are outdated, that the future she dreamed of isn't the right future for her. This web is built by people, sometimes conscious of what they do, sometimes being used without realizing. People driven by envy, by interest in her potential, by desire for control. They recognize your daughter's gifts even before she herself does, and precisely because of that, they target her. Spiritual gifts, creative talents, leadership capacity, emotional sensitivity, all of this is magnetism. It attracts good, but also attracts those who want to feed off another's light instead of developing their own. And there is still a dimension that goes beyond the human. In the spiritual realm, destinies are known before they manifest on earth. Your daughter's purpose has already been recorded, and where there is purpose, there is opposition. Not because she is weak, but because she is strong. The greater the calling, the greater the resistance. What's happening to her isn't an accident, it's a target. And you were moved to perceive this because your role in this story isn't passive. Let me give you a concrete example of how this web operates in practice, because often we imagine spiritual and emotional manipulation happens obviously, with clearly malicious people you'd easily identify. But it's not like that. Think of a situation like this. Your daughter meets someone, maybe at college, at work, at church, in a WhatsApp group. This person seems incredible, articulate, generous with praise, has a life story that inspires. They see potential in your daughter in a way that seems rare, special. Say things like, "You have a gift most people can't see," or "I always knew you were different." That's called idealized mirroring. It's a technique, sometimes conscious, sometimes instinctive in people with certain behavior patterns, of creating an emotional dependency bond by making the other feel extraordinarily seen and valued. At first, it seems genuine care. But gradually, that admiration begins to have conditions. It begins to come accompanied by subtle comparisons with other people in her life, including you. Your family doesn't understand who you're becoming. The people who knew you before struggle to accept your growth. And when that filter is installed, your voice, which is of genuine love, of real covering, begins to be interpreted as a threat. Your concern becomes control. Your wisdom becomes limitation. Your presence becomes pressure. Do you recognize this pattern? If you do, don't let this video pass. Share it now with who needs to hear this. Why you? Why now? This is the question maybe in your head now. Why am I hearing this? Why now? Because heaven recognizes you. I'm not saying this poetically. I'm saying it literally and spiritually. There is an anointing over intercessory parents that is unique in the realm. When God chooses a guardian for a life, he doesn't choose by chance. He chooses who has the spirit tuned enough to hear before the noise increases. You've gone through situations that shaped your discernment. You've been deceived and learned to recognize falsehood. You've been betrayed and learned to read the silence behind words. You've prayed in the midnight hours and received answers logic couldn't explain. All that was preparation. It wasn't suffering without purpose. It was training. And now, at this moment, that training is being activated. Heaven didn't call you to be paralyzed by fear. It called you to occupy your place. To use the authority you have, not the authority of shouting or control, but the authority of intercession, of covering, of prayer that moves what cannot be moved by human force. There's a verse that always comes back to me in these moments. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Ephesians 6:12. The battle you're being called to fight isn't with people, it's with the forces behind people. And for that battle, you already have the necessary weapons. But let me go beyond that, because there's something few intercessors fully understand. The moment of the call matters as much as the call itself. You're not being activated for this battle at any random moment. There is a window, a period when interference is in accelerated motion and when the response can also be accelerated. It's like in surgery. There are moments when intervening is more effective than others. Heaven is calling you now because now is the window. Leaving it for later isn't prudence. It's strategic time loss. Each day that passes without you actively occupying your place as an intercessor is a day the web advances a thread. Not because God is weak or limited, but because he created the system of delegated authority. He gave you authority over your sphere, and authority not exercised is authority wasted. Heaven is waiting for your word. It's waiting for your position. It's waiting for you to look at your daughter's situation and say, no, not over her, not in my watch. Now let me give you something tangible, because faith without practical discernment doesn't protect anyone. There are patterns that emerge when a life is under genuine spiritual attack. I'll share several, and you'll likely recognize at least 3 or 4 in what you're witnessing right now. The first is emotional fluctuation without a clear trigger. She's fine, then suddenly plunges into sadness or anxiety without being able to explain why. This happens because in the spirit realm, waves of oppression operate like tides. They rise and fall according to activity in the unseen realm. The second is the rejection of spiritual covering. She used to pray, had a relationship with God, but suddenly begins questioning everything, not with healthy curiosity, but with bitterness and withdrawal. It's as if a veil has been placed over her eyes, so she cannot see the protection available to her. The third is a shift in her dreams. Heavy, disturbing dreams where she wakes without remembering, but with a lingering sense that something happened. Or the opposite, a total absence of dreams, a sleep that doesn't restore or bring peace. The fourth is the approach of people with excessive charisma who make overly grand promises. Someone who recently entered her life and seems to have answers for everything, understands her in ways that feel impressive, positioning themselves as a mentor or reference. Beware of those who need power over others to feel powerful themselves. The fifth is the false door painted gold, an opportunity that appeared at the right time, seeming like an answer to prayer, but demanding from her something that doesn't align with the character God has formed within her. It asks for commitments too quickly, carries an artificial urgency. The sixth, and this one many overlook, is the change in her relationship with time. She who had routines, had mid- and long-term plans, suddenly lives only in the immediate. She can't plan for next week, let alone next year. Everything becomes, we'll see, I'll deal with it later, I don't know yet. This isn't maturing indecision. It's a blocked vision for the future. When someone can no longer imagine their own tomorrow with clarity, something is interfering with her ability to see herself in her own destiny. If you recognized 3 or more of these patterns, what you're sensing isn't imagination, it's real spiritual perception. I want to speak now about something that, to some may seem symbolic, but to those with spiritual sensitivity, is profoundly real. In the book of Daniel, chapter 10, there's an extraordinary account. Daniel prayed, and his prayer was heard on the first day, but the answer took 21 days to arrive because there was a battle in the heavenly places. A messenger angel was sent, but needed assistance to break through the resistance. Michael, one of the chief angels, was summoned to assist. This means there are battles in the spiritual realm that precede manifestations in the natural. What you're seeing in your daughter's life is the earthly reflection of something being contested in another dimension. And Archangel Michael, the warrior prince, the protector of the chosen, is already in motion. Not because I'm stating this arbitrarily, but because when a guardian like you awakens to intercession, heavenly forces respond to the alignment. You are not alone in this battle. You never have been. The circle of fire around your daughter is not a metaphor. It's spiritual reality. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. Psalm 34:7. That promise is active, but it requires your conscious alignment, your authority being exercised, your voice being raised on behalf of her destiny. We've arrived at the practical part, because spirituality without action is just emotion. And you weren't called to feel, you were called to act. I'll give you a protocol for strategic intercession. It's not religion, it's not superstition, it's spiritual warfare with wisdom. First, establish daily covering. Every morning before anything else, declare aloud the protection over your daughter's life, not in a whisper, in your voice. Spoken words carry weight in the spiritual. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. Declare her name, declare her purpose, declare that no network, no scheme, no word spoken against her has power to prosper. Second, identify and break agreements. Sometimes in moments of weakness or naivety, our daughter may have opened doors with words, with choices, with relationships. You, as an intercessor, have the authority to break those agreements in her name, under the covering established by the blood of Christ, over the family. Pray specifically, I break every agreement established by ignorance, by pressure, or by manipulation. I declare the original purpose restored. Third, pray with specificity, not generality. Generic prayer yields generic results. When you pray, get into details. Call out influences by what they are: envy, control, manipulation, unhealthy emotional dependency. Name what you're seeing and declare the rupture of it. Fourth, care for your own spiritual frequency. You cannot give protection you don't possess. An intercessor who is exhausted, bitter, full of fear, operates at a low frequency. Before interceding for your daughter, intercede for yourself. Ask for clarity. Ask for peace that surpasses understanding. Ask that the love of God within you be greater than the fear. Fifth, act in the natural realm as well. Spiritual warfare doesn't replace human conversations. Create space where she feels safe to talk with you without judgment, not as an interrogation, but as a safe harbor. Sometimes your daughter doesn't need another piece of advice. She needs a parent who simply stands beside her without needing to fix everything. Presence is protection. Sixth, establish a consistent altar of intercession. This isn't about creating an empty ritual. It's about creating a regular meeting point with the God who hears. Choose a time. It could be 6 a.m., it could be 10 p.m. when the house is quiet. It could be 15 minutes, it could be an hour. What matters is consistency. The adversary knows that occasional intercession can be resisted, but consistent, faithful, daily intercession, this creates an atmosphere that isn't easily broken. It's like a flame that gradually warms the environment until the cold cannot enter anymore. Seventh, use the weapon of fasting wisely. There are battles that do not go out except by prayer and fasting. Matthew 17:21. If you feel your daughter's situation has reached an intensity where normal prayer seems insufficient, consider a period of fasting, not as punishment, but as focus. Fasting fine-tunes spiritual perception, breaks patterns, and creates a space of vulnerability before God that attracts extraordinary responses. Here's one of the most powerful revelations I want to give you in this video. When you occupy your place as an intercessor, opposing forces begin to become confused. This isn't spiritual exaggeration, it's biblical pattern and observable reality. When light enters an environment, darkness cannot remain intact. When authority is exercised with love and wisdom, the scheme that depended on your ignorance begins to crack. You will begin to notice things. The people who tried to isolate your daughter will sense distance from her without understanding why. The false opportunities will begin to show their cracks. Contradictions will appear. Promises won't hold up. What seemed brilliant will begin to seem hollow. And your daughter will begin to gain clarity. Not necessarily dramatically, but in small moments. A comment she makes that shows she's seeing what she didn't see before. A choice she makes that moves in the direction of her purpose. A friendship she distances herself from without you needing to ask. These are the signs of dismantling. Each one is a confirmation that the spiritual work is functioning. Heaven is responding. Guard these signs, write them down. They will be the testimony that strengthens her faith when the time comes for you to share what you lived through in this period. Because that time will come, and she will need to know that someone was praying for her even when she didn't know she needed it. I need to alert you to a real danger on this path. Because the same adversary that set up a scheme against your daughter will try to set up a scheme against you now that you're awake. The scheme against you is called paralyzing fear. It's different from the healthy alert that brought you here. Healthy alert moves you to action. Paralyzing fear freezes you. It makes you see danger everywhere. It makes you want to control every step she takes, every friendship, every choice. It makes you operate from anxiety instead of authority. And when a parent operates from fear, two things happen. First, you lose discernment because fear distorts perception. You start seeing threats where there are none, and ignoring real threats because you're overwhelmed. Second, your attention. You need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you. And strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuzazuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.